I agree with you. It's I've felt that our young guys were improving. It's hard to sort of justify it when you couldn't apply some wins next to that comment. And I think the addition of Ish, we all see how that has been sort of a glue to the program, and you see people like Nerlens, take off. But I give our guys credit for staying together and continuing to put in time, and grateful to have Ish, be our point guard again.
Yeah, I wonder, he's a guy who's bounced around like 9 different teams. I mean, so it's not like he's new and people haven't seen him before. Why do you think he has bounced around but yet stabilized your team so much?
I think it highlights really where we are at. The fact that he has bounced around, I think, shows just how difficult it is to be an NBA point guard. I think it's the hardest position to play in the league. I think it might be the most important. And so it's highly competitive. And given our young players and the fact that we were, trying some young point guards as well, somebody with his resume, somebody of his experience, even though he has played on that volume of teams, for us he's very unique. For us he's very special. And I think that we're a good fit for him too. And so he's got a big personality, big charisma, got a real bounce to how he plays, and we're all just excited to have him back with us.
Yeah, he's obviously added. I mean, what's interesting, obviously the team wins-loss-wise struggled. There were some games where, it was just kind of tough to watch. And you say you just add a point guard, and look how much different things are. And then the guy with the glass half full says, wow, just imagine when, you start to add some of the other pieces that you guys are hopeful for. Do you think that things are going to be better sooner than later, just knowing what you have down the road?
Well, I think, it's always what version of better do we cling to. The thing that I do know is when you have the point guard now that we have an Ish, and obviously the program is still fluid. We've got a lot of work to do. And then you start wondering about, Joel Embiid and Saric and, maybe as many as 4 first-round draft picks and a free agency market that we can tap into. How can you not get excited for that situation, those opportunities? Ultimately the goal of the program, my goal for all of us has always been that we want to win, and we want to win big. You feel a real responsibility to this city to ultimately deliver something that they are very proud of and that wins on a regular basis. The timeline of that, who knows? Would all be naive not to look at their ages. They're still 21, 22 years old. And so I just feel good about the direction we're going, and most definitely the base that we've established.
Coach Brett Brown, Sixers, back in action tomorrow. You can hear the game right here at 97.3 ESPN. You mentioned Embiid's name. He was out with you guys in the West Coast, and obviously there's so much, I think a lot because of Bynum and that whole situation. There's so much dissension between fans on, well, he's never going to play. He is going to play. I'm not counting him out there until I see him. You see him. You talk to him. What kind of spirits is he in, and what kind of feeling do you have towards him? To you, is this like, in your mind, you have no doubt in your mind that he will be a part of your team next year, or are you kind of in a wait-and-see mode as well?
Well, let's go to – you've asked some good questions, and a few of them. I think that Joel Embiid this year versus last year, just in his mind, in his approach to his situation, is night and day. I think that when you go to, somebody that's 19, 20 years old and say, there's a chance you could not play basketball again. And what are you going to do to make sure that you're as professional can be to do everything to get you back on the court? And we've done that. He has done it. The medical staff has done it. He's got a group of people around him that are just exceptional, led by himself. He's in a completely different place. We feel that we've done everything that we can to give him the chance to come play basketball and play at a high level for a long time. We've partnered up with Zydrunas Ilgauskas, who through a similar experience and shared his NBA experiences with Joel. And so I think all over the place things are positive and things are great internally with Joel. And I'm very, very confident that we're going to see a healthy Joel Embiid soon.
Brett Brown's with us. You say soon. That's not this year, right? Don't get everybody all hooked up, right?
No, soon. I mean, in the next,
I'm just making sure.
Yeah. No, I think that, that will be determined at the start of next year. We expect to get him back on the court and playing good basketball, and that's where our mind has been set.
Obviously at the end of last year, you guys made the move with Jerry Colangelo. How much have things changed just day to day having him be a part of the organization? I know he's not there every day, but just having him, his intel, how much has that changed the Philadelphia 76ers organization?
I mean, you're dealing with somebody that has spent 4 decades in the game. And so I know that from my perspective to say, what do you think? And, how can we better handle this? And, sharing with all of us and designing the franchise and creating a team. I mean, it comes with a wealth of experience. And so you get somebody that has had that type of experience behind him. I think his words carry a high level of respect. And we're excited to have him with us. It's a tremendous sounding board for all of us.
Obviously, you talk about moving forward. What are you looking for from this bunch now moving forward, 2016? The other night you said something that really, kind of stood out is this second third of the season now. That first third, bumpy road. But, it's hard to judge a team. Yeah, you don't win a lot of games, but you got a guy in TJ playing the point who's, an undrafted guy. I'm sure between where you got him in October to where he is now, he's a much different player just in that short of time. So what do you hope to see from your bunch this second third?
I think just the obvious progression that we're seeing now, we want that to continue. And I felt like you saw that with the group that we had last year where we were able to move it forward prior to the All-Star break, and then, trades were made, and the team took a new direction. And I think that with this group that we have now, if we can, continue to just move this group forward and feel good about the acquisition of Ish, and even the other night, you see Rashawn Holmes come in and show why we have such high hopes for him. I think collectively we're heading in the direction that we want. To quantify it maybe with the number of wins or whatever, I'm not going to do that. I think that as a city, as a fan base, as a coaching staff, we're going to feel it. We're going to see it. And right now, at the start of this middle third, I feel strongly that we're doing that. We're moving this thing forward.
I want to ask you about the two big guys. Obviously, you've talked a lot about this, but for our listeners, Noel seems much more active, efficient, more comfortable playing in that 5 spot. And I think you said the other night that you view Okafor as a 4-man. So just kind of talk about those two guys together down the road.
Well, I think that let's start with what we're seeing now, and then we'll talk about down the road. I think that Nerlens, the last 6 games, Nerlens is just very, very good. He's very much carrying forward what he ended the last year's season, playing at in regards to defensive efficiency and his presence at the rim and running the floor. Jaleel is a young man that's, I've said before, can score in his sleep sometimes. He's just so capable a scorer. I do think that he's not somebody that you just need to post up his whole life. I think he's capable at that high post area, that elbow area. He's shown a versatility where he can make a shot or put it to the floor. Pairing those two together is a challenge. I can't deny that. And usually the greatest challenge comes with defensive matchups. When teams go small and, you're having to chase mobile wings around, it's not a good pairing. And so I have to blow that up. I got to bust that up and try to have some type of balance defensively on the floor. All over the place, it's a challenge. But it's not something that we're going away from. They're still young. It is my responsibility to take best players and try to see if they can coexist and try to help make it work. I still have not bailed on that at all. But I do concede, when it ends up a small ball game, defensively, I'm not inclined to force feed that.
Yeah. And you did mention Jaleel. I think you started the press conference the other night by talking about his positivity, even though he sat in the entire fourth quarter. And I guess, with some of the things that happened to him earlier, here's a young man. You're watching him grow over the last couple of weeks.
He's been a great teammate. I think people sometimes forget, like, either the age or the accolades coming out of high school or accolades coming out of Duke, and think you're just going to slot comfortably, easily into the NBA. When either things don't go your way or you're not playing like you want to. There's a lot of expectations, and I think external pressure remind him all the time to not get distracted, to not get tricked by the noise. And so he did not play in the fourth period, and Cal Landry was playing well, and Nerlens came back in and protected the rim, yet Jaleel was on a bench swinging a towel, first guy off the floor to greet his teammates. That's if you don't have that, you don't have much. And I point to Isaiah Cannon the same way. I didn't play him at all in the first half. He came in, had a big steal, hit a big three, and got us back on track. And it's a challenge of growing a bunch of young guys, and always a challenge any coach would tell you of forming a team.
Brett Brown's with us. Sixers tomorrow night right here on 97.3. They take on Atlanta. Saturday, Sunday, Toronto and LeBron's in town. Then they play Chicago and Portland. So a couple games at home. Real quick, a couple quickies. Robert Covington was big for you guys. He said he's in a slump. Is just the up and downs of being on a team that doesn't win a lot and, just kind of – we're all human. Sometimes you just lose that focus. Sometimes is this just Robert's right now, or do you see something that stands out to you?
No, I think you've hit it on the head. I think shooters, when they go in a slump, it's so much more easily talked about because you just aren't making shots. I've had defensive players that go in slumps and nobody really knows about it because it's not really something that features much on stat sheets.
Right.
And with him, it's part of the deal of shooters. You go up and down. I remind, sort of Nick Stauskas and Robert, same thing. To me, the best way to get back into it is you have to play defense. You have to find a way to physically get in the game defensively and contribute in an area probably that's more controllable, and your shots will fall. I think when shooters do go into slumps, probably the biggest slump is in their decision making. Am I open or am I not? And I feel like for him, the judgment of just assessing a closeout when somebody goes to guard you. Are they off? Well, you shoot it. Well, they're on your doorstep. You drive it, keeping it that clean. Yeah. But everything needs to be started through a defensive mentality.
It's so you have so many interesting guys I could ask you about. But I would say if you talk to people about what's happening with the 76ers and you guys, they needed more veterans around, and maybe so. I mean, to say that everything has been done 100% right, whatever. But is it fair to say that guys like Grant and Covington, some of the guys that you have, that you are kind of grooming them to become your veteran players, down the road, that when this thing picks up, that you will have your veteran players homegrown in place rather than going out and overspending to bring those type of guys in?
I think that there is some truth to that. I feel, we talk freely about making sure that this program isn't always run from the top down. I want them to feel like this is their program. This is a partnership. Some will make it, some won't. But to grow internal leaders, to empower some of our young guys to learn how to lead despite, some losing and navigating through some difficulty. I want them to speak with a high level of authenticity to one another, where there is a high level of team accountability, where my voice isn't the only voice. And those two players you just mentioned are amongst that group. And I feel like, that's just part of my role as a coach, kind of all over the place, trying to identify and help grow and cultivate leaders. It's not in everybody. This thing is not for everybody.
Right.
But I think, those two guys have done a good job.
Well, real quick, I'll ask you about Mike D'Antoni, who obviously this is an interesting situation because he had been out of the game and then all of a sudden he's right on the bench. How much has he helped? I mean, what have you learned from him in just a short amount of time, and what has he added to the program?
I think he's fantastic. For me to look over and see somebody that has his experience, and he's a great guy. And I've known, Mike through coaching against him for years, and we have sort of similar backgrounds where he lived overseas for a long time in Italy. I lived overseas a long time in Australia, and, he comes back to the NBA. I come back to the NBA. Think how how unique a situation it is, Mike, where I can come from a Spurs background where you go to 5 NBA championships, and our offense was highly respected. And so you take a system that you help grow and believe in, then it collides with, Mike's version of 7 seconds or less, I think is what they called in Phoenix, where it's just an upbeat, up-tempo offense. And how do you merge post people into that? We had Duncan, he had Nash. And, I've coached 20 years as a head coach myself, and I got beliefs that I think, morphed into all of that. And so to have Mike, next to me and say, hey, what do you think? And pick his brain on what he did. I just think it's great for the program. It's good for me. It's good for my assistant coaches, and I'm thrilled to have him with us.
Well, Coach, we know you got the day off, but always working tomorrow against Atlanta. You can hear the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. Always very honest. I like that about you, and love having you on to talk some hoops. And, well, good luck in 2016 in this second third, and obviously, hopefully you see some more things emerge as this thing continues on.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Mike.